this story came out that, and it was almost considered to be a joke, but it's a joke in really, really bad taste, given all that's going on. So there's been lots of stories across multiple press associations and news outlets, etc., saying that the Russians were threatening to dump the ISS on North America, as you said. Even the Times, London Times, was focusing on that. Now, Van der Heij is only one of three. There's three other astronauts up there that could be, in inverted commas, stranded. So he's not the only one up there. And as Terry said, it doesn't look like this is going to happen, but it was in a really, really bad taste. The joke, this is RIA Novosti, one of the Kremlin-aligned kind of outlets, as it were, one of the Kremlin mouthpieces, that put out a kind of spoof video saying that, this was going to happen. And then they said it was a joke. But as I said, really, really poor joke. And given Dmitry Rogozin's outbursts, and it's like watching a child have a meltdown in some respects. And I don't say that lightly, and I don't say it in a disrespectful manner. I'm just saying you only have to look at what he's saying and you think, why are you doing this? You built up such an incredible reputation with Roscosmos for reliability, stability, fantastic cooperation and collaboration. And just because, the Kremlin is saying you must jump and he's saying how high, that's not how the world should be in the 21st century. I'm sorry, it really isn't. So NASA is saying currently that the ISS situation is okay and the space walk will continue. And it is going on as we speak. But then on top of this, Van der Heij was just one issue. We've then had this kind of very public spat between some quite notable people in, Scott Kelly. Scott and Mark Kelly, obviously both astronauts. Scott Kelly has flown multiple times on the ISS, twice on a Soyuz, and he's now saying that he wants to hand back his medals. And given that a lot of the astronauts, nearly all the astronauts that fly to the ISS, or pretty much these days, have to learn Russian as well, because obviously they're collaborating with their Russian colleagues up there, he was basically attacking via social media Dmitry Rogozin, because Rogozin's tweets were so, angsty and antagonistic and inflating the situation so badly. He just said, well, I've had enough of this. And his reputation and standing with the astronaut community is unparalleled pretty much in the modern era. He's extremely respected. And for him to say, right, well, I'm going to hand back my Medal of Merit, which was given to him by Dmitry Medvedev, who was the former president of Russia, that is a really strong statement, I think, in that he doesn't want anything to do with Rogozin. I think this is kind of leading on to what you were saying before, Terry, that I think NASA and ESA now have really got to consider, unless the whole structure of Roscosmos is changed and people like Rogozin are removed, and if Putin is removed, potentially we could have a perestroika type moment, hopefully with a good Russian leader who comes in and says, we've really got to rebuild this. We've really got to change how we think and how we move forward. I don't know if that's going to happen. But essentially, Rogozin was coming out with stuff like it's going to cost the West $8 billion to not deliver rocket engines and OneWeb satellites and $4 billion here. He was chucking around horrific numbers, then threatening, saying he's going to let the ISS fall out of the sky. He's not representing the vast majority of the Russian scientific community. That's the fact. And, do not want to turn this into some kind of Russia bashing thing. Russia is a beautiful country with an incredible history. And, there's some great scientists. Let's not forget, Sergei Korolev was Ukrainian, was born in the Ukraine. Okay, it was former Soviet territory at the time. But, the great designer, the people who kept Werner von Braun awake at night during the 60s, during the Apollo era, they've had some phenomenal people, and they still do have some phenomenal people. So we really don't want to see this fall apart. As I said, it could escalate into something far worse, and we all hope it never will. But and Kelly's comment, it was really quite heartrending in many respects. He said, I want to give my medal to a Russian mother whose sons died in this unjust war. He wasn't mincing his words, Scott Kelly. And given, what's happened with his family and, Gary Giffords and, her being shot, etc., they don't want to see any kind of conflict and war in the world. None of the scientific community do. We all just want to see science. We want to see great science done. And you turn to the James Webb and some of the stories we're going to be coming on to, and you can see that great science can be done and great collaboration can be done. But anyway, that's
Yep.
just kind of my 5 minute rant on this.
I think the good news on that side is that on board the ISS itself, there appears to be no conflict between the Americans and the Russians. And another thing that's a good angle is that Scott Kelly is now retired. He's no longer a NASA astronaut. So what he's doing personally. So
Yeah.
it's not as if the head of NASA was having a spat with the head of Roscosmos. That would be pretty bad.
Oh, but yeah, then we had Elon Musk wanting to go hand to hand combat with Vladimir Putin. I mean,
Uh,
it's almost getting silly, and Elon Musk is known for his kind of slightly off center, off kilt tweets on occasion. Bless him. I mean, it is a real love hate relationship we've always had with Musk in terms of the brilliance of what he does with the Falcons versus some of his kind of more off the wall stuff in Starlink. So I don't know, but then Rogozin was saying that America was going to launch on broomsticks, and then we had the whole SpaceX launch where they said, "Oh, we're going to send here's one of our broomsticks going up." It's all getting very silly, and a good friend of mine on Twitter today said, "Why is it that there's so many, ridiculous people?" She used quite a like stronger language than that, but ridiculous people in the world, and it's true. Everybody just needs to step back and realize not just the damage to people's lives and the decimation of people's lives, and we're seeing millions of people leaving Ukraine now and going into Poland and various other countries around Europe, and it's heartbreaking to see that, but the impact is far greater than that alone. There are so many things that are just going to be they're going to take decades to restore. We are back in. It's almost like we've rolled the clock back to 1961. The kind of time of the Cuban Missile Crisis and Khrushchev and Kennedy kind of era, where we don't want to go back there. So let's hope that sense will eventually prevail and that we're not glowing in the dark in a few weeks.